Hey folks, hope everyone is doing well and enjoying the weather as we now move into the fall. Hey, I wanted to share with you a really quick story here about the pending Fed interest rate cuts coming up. A lot of buzz about this, and it's kind of funny. I did a video, exact same video a year ago, and showed you this graph right here on the left. We'll start over here. This is the Fed funds rate. This is what the Fed actually lowers and controls. It's called the Fed funds rate, and it doesn't affect long-term mortgage interest rates as much as people think. People think that the Fed controls mortgage rates, and they don't. This is the rate that controls kind of the prime rate. It drives the prime interest rate, which controls things like your credit cards, equity lines, things of that nature. Anyway, this graph goes back 5 years to before COVID. This was COVID. And remember when money was just absolutely free, the Fed funds rate was nothing. And then they started raising things up in 2022. And then it's just been flatline until a year ago. And what I want to show you really quick is what happened a year ago when the Feds were going to start cutting interest rates. And I'm showing you that because that's what they're talking about doing again today, right? So a year ago, in September of 2024, that's when they dropped things a full 0.5% as opposed to the 0.25% they're about to drop them again. So in 2024 in September, they dropped them a full 0.5%. We were at this higher rate and then boom, and they went down. Well, what happened to mortgage interest rates? If you look over here on the right, in September of 2024, mortgage interest rates were at 6.08%. This data, by the way, is from Freddie Mac, and I can send you the link. They do a weekly survey. So these are loans that have actually funded through the government. So back in September of last year, about a year ago, rates were 6.08%, right after they dropped the Fed funds rate by 0.5%. Well, that drop actually was perceived as inflationary and bad for the market, not good. And what did rates do? 6 weeks later, from September 26th up to November 7th, they actually went up. They went up by almost 0.75%. They went from 6.08 the week of September 26th all the way up to 6.79, which is 0.71%, almost 0.75%. Then so they didn't go down is the point. And then they lowered things again 0.25% in December, and then another 0.25% in January. So December of last year and then January of this year, 1/4 each. Let's see what happened. Come back over here, down here, December, when they lowered it, we were at 6.85. They lowered it, things actually went up, and we touched 7 in the high 6s again. And then in January, they lowered it, and then in February, we were at 6.89. So those 2 1/4-point cuts didn't really do anything. Again, we were back at 6.08% in September. So rates were stubbornly high. So again, we're at this point where they've been flat all this time. They're going to lower them another 1/4% here, probably when they announce that next week. So I'm going to show you, we've been at this 6.89. Again, February after the last rate cuts, 6.89. We've been flatlined there in May. 4 months later, we're still at 6.89. Most recent data available, 3 months later, we've come down about 1/4%, which is fantastic. Hopefully that'll happen again. But the point is that there's no guarantee that when the Fed cuts rates, the mortgage rates go down. They actually went up these last few times. Personally, I think we're going to see some relief, but it doesn't have as much to do with the Fed cutting rates as it does with some other things that are going on with what are called spreads and other economic activity. The way this affects you is the interest rates have already baked in the fact that the Fed's going to cut things. And so the fact that we're going down a little bit is a good thing, but you don't need to wait for the Fed to make that announcement. If anything, when they make the announcement, the rates go up a little bit. So hope this was helpful. If you're still watching, I appreciate your time. If you have questions about this stuff, just reach out. I'm never too busy to help. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.